Earlier this year, we'd rather cheekily squeezed ourselves into a Ferrari 458 Spider, and that video's done a few views. So on the back of that, I thought, well, let's phone Ferrari and ask if we can have a go in an F12 Berlinetta. And they very sportingly said, yes, you can. But this time, Chris, rather than give it back with bits of metal sticking out of the tyres, we'll give you 4 sets of tyres to destroy. You don't have to have much of an imagination to work out what's going to happen now, do you?
As a collection of numbers, the F12 is simply unprecedented. The 6.2 litre V12 has 740 horsepower at 8,250 RPM. That's 118 horsepower per litre. Maximum torque is 508 foot-pounds. But the most impressive thing about the F12 is that despite being way more powerful than the old 599, it's smaller and lighter than before. The figures are stunning: 70 kilograms lighter, 47 millimeters shorter, 63 millimeters lower and 20 millimeters narrower. The bodywork is, to my eyes, absolutely stunning, but it's also functional. There are ducts and scoops and places to peer through that contribute to low drag and some claimed downforce. Now look, I'm not too sure about claimed downforce because one man's wind tunnel is another man's, well, you know. So let's just say that the F12's epidermis appears to work the air quite radically. All we really care about are the electrically operated brake cooling ducts.
Now, you've probably read about this newfangled steering wheel that Ferrari put on the 458. The F12 has the same steering wheel, but I thought it would be good to let you have a look because maybe you haven't seen it before. It is a normal-ish steering wheel. It's quite big in size. It's heavily grooved in a couple of places, which means it's not as thick as it looks. It has rev lights on the top which flash. You can see those in some of the shots we've taken already. But everything is on here. Indicators, push once to start, push again to cancel. And then you've got your lights, main beam, you've got your washers down here. This button here is very important. It's a damper button. It should be called the UK button because when you press it, the suspension softens and it says bumpy road mode. In the UK, you get in the car, the first thing you do is hit that, otherwise the thing is too firm on the road. Then you've got your Manatino down here, which is like a sort of jelly bean that gives you sport race, CT off, which is a traction control mode which keeps a certain amount of assistance, a good Billy mode really, and then ESC off, which allows us to go and lay down big black lines because there's no assistance. What you need to know about this is that if you drive the car for a day, you hate it because your brain just doesn't have time to acclimatise to it. I've been running this car for 4 or 5 days now, which I've quite enjoyed, and I've really got to grips with it, and I really enjoy it. It works superbly, particularly the indicators, which I didn't like on the 458. Maybe my brain has just matured with it. Also, you have, the same as the 458, the 2 control pods either side. These don't work quite so well for me because the way I sit, they're a bit obstructed and there's just too much going on. But you have a million things going on. You've got sat-nav and other bits and bobs, and your iPod on the right hand side here, so effectively infotainment on the right, and on the left you've got all your vehicular information, which is tyre pressures, tyre temperatures, oil temperature, water temperature. There's a whole world of geeky joy to be had in here. It's a really cool cabin. Of course you have got your auxiliary passenger data area, so they can see just how fast they're going when they're crapping themselves in the passenger seat. Launch mode, reverse and other things down on the left here. Ergonomically, it's kind of all over the place, but once you get used to it, it works really well. And of course, it's just special. And it's all set off for me by this wonderful, great big rev counter in the middle. And actually these lovely titanium air vents, which I think are very pretty indeed. It's a great cabin.
Claimed performances of the "that's not possible" variety: 0 to 62 in 3.1 seconds, 0 to 125 in 8.5 seconds, and 211 flat out. The thing should be sold with nappies for the passenger. The transmission is a 7-speed dual clutch, which might well bring a big improvement over the old Meco manual in the 599. Latest generation carbon ceramic brakes are 398mm at the front, and the car uses a new generation of traction control and Ferrari's electronically controlled differential. Now, frankly, that's enough detailed chat. I want to shag some tyres.
I am at the wheel of an F12 Berlinetta. I didn't think I'd be saying that. I'm about a year late to it, The story behind us getting the car, well, I've already told you that, so I'm not too uncomfortable about being in a new Ferrari. I love their cars, they're brilliant. So, we're at Anglesey, we've got all these tyres to play with, but before we do that, I want to tell you a bit about the car and be sensible with it, okay? So, let's do a fast lap, and I'll talk you through the way the car performs, and then maybe we'll be a bit more silly afterwards, okay? This is the start-finish straight. I've got the traction control off, but the ESP on. So, 740 horsepower, here we go. First left-hander. Steering really fast, very accurate. Traction, astonishing. Brakes, astonishing. Braking hard into this hairpin. Third gear, the exit now. This is just mind-blowing. Remember, it's front engine, I'm wide open in third. Truly the fastest road car I've driven. It is extraordinary. I've got some understeer through that fast right-hander, but that's because the track's a bit green. Now, we really pile on. Fourth, fifth. This is insanely fast through here. I don't want to look at the numbers, but it's accurate. Brakes are fantastic. It wants to change direction. You feel like you have to overstop the car because it's got so much straight line speed. Don't be too greedy through this little S. Again, traction zone. Wide open, the diff's doing it all for me. The combination of the differential and the traction control through this long sweeper, the camber's falling away. Little bit of a sense of oversteer on the exit, nothing too much. Braking performance. And that engine, I suppose you can't hear that engine, can you? 6.3 litres, 740 horsepower. Quite simply, the fastest street car I've driven, I think, in a straight line. Just mind-bending, and yet so manageable here. That is immense. This is, I think, the greatest technical achievement of a big sporting GT car I've driven. I wouldn't even look at an Aventador compared to this as a driving experience. I really mean it. I'm just utterly blown away. And you can drive it like this, accurate, straight line. And then you can turn everything off. And then you get a whole different car. Okay, so we're now ESP off, or ESC off, which is Italian for Your Honor, Your Owner. So what happens? We give it a little bit of gas. Oh, and it oversteers quite a lot. The power is utterly addictive, and the car really is a 740 horsepower M3. I know you'll think I'm being silly saying that, but it's ridiculous how easy to drive this car is. The steering is fast. You have to learn quite quickly how much steering angle you need to just measure that opposite lock, but once you do, it's not that difficult. The problem is, it's got so much power that even in some of the faster turns here where I'd normally be using third gear, in this car I can be in fourth gear on part throttle and it's still doing a massive drift. But the balance and the appetite to be a hooligan is just addictive, I think. Watch this. It's the left-hander, fourth gear. Watch this. Put it in. We're lit. We're lit. Speedo's reading 98 miles an hour. 98 miles an hour. You get my drift, do you? It's just a weapon. This here, right-hander, we're entering at 87. Exit, 106. Fully lit in fourth gear. I've never driven anything like it. In some respects, it's too much. In some respects, it's just perfect. And I'm just utterly besotted by it. I think it's a fantastic car. You shouldn't be able to do this, should you? Oh, I'll do one more for you before I get told to stop by Neil. Look at this. Look at that. Look at that!
We didn't shoot the F12 on the road. I drove it on the road for many hundreds of miles and I loved every minute, but the business of avoiding being banged up quickly becomes all-consuming. The car is just so damn fast. Besides, who needs 35-mile-an-hour tracking shots near some town when you can have slow-motion drifts at 90 miles an hour? The F12 takes some getting used to on the street. The steering is very fast to begin with and you have to relax your inputs to meet the car's speed of direction change. It's so usable though. The soft damper mode is ideal, the hi-fi is good. Everything kind of works like it does on a normal car. It sounds bonkers to be celebrating that on a £308,000 car, but it wasn't always the case on Ferraris in the past. The crazy thing about this car, even crazier than the way it drives and the ballistic engine and the terrifying speed and the way it eviscerated 5 sets of tyres in a day and, I can't believe I'm saying this, 1 pair of rears shooting that single lap with each corner taken sideways. Yes, the even crazier thing is the desperate need I have to own one. I just think it's so ridiculous and wonderful that a car maker can sell a 740 horsepower sports GT. There's nothing the world needs less, and there's nothing I want more, because it's the best car of its type I've ever driven. And now I need to go and lie down for a while.